We're continuing the series on Veeam ONE, and this time I'd like to talk to you about something. Dashboards, catalog dashboards. As you can see here, we're on the very latest version of Veeam ONE, version 13 as of now, which was released on September 3rd, 2025. And there have been quite a few changes to the graphical interface of Veeam ONE, at least, changes to the reporting module of Veeam ONE. On the graphical interface, we have a console, an HTML5 interface, with a restyled look that makes it much more ergonomic, much more efficient, much more pleasant as well, and much easier to use. So what are dashboards used for? Actually, the idea behind dashboards is that you can create your own dashboards. There are also existing pre-configured dashboards, which is what we're seeing on the screen. And inside a dashboard, by clicking, you have access to a number of widgets. But before getting into the details of dashboards and widgets, let's just take a look at what's happening on this console. You can organize the dashboards. Here we have 9 dashboards. Dashboards called Veeam, Backup and Replication, Heatmap, vSphere. We'll look at them in detail in a moment. You can filter to display only the dashboards that are marked as favorites. To set dashboards as favorites, you just need to click here on the little star, and they immediately appear in the tab, here favorites. This way you can filter to show only the dashboards that are most useful, especially when you start having a large number of dashboards to manage. You can change the view. You have a thumbnail view like here. You can also display things as a list depending on your preferences and how you want the information to be presented to you. Personally, I prefer the thumbnail view. Thumbnail. I find it much more visual and much easier to read this way. So what do we have? Here we have 9 pre-configured, pre-existing dashboards. If we take the first one, let's see what's inside. In the dashboard, Veeam Backup and Replication. So just before that, here in the options for each dashboard, you can clone, you can edit, so change the name of the dashboard description, predefined. You can change the appearance, as you can see the colors, a small icon here to customize it. And you can schedule, we'll see that later, you can schedule. In fact, the dashboard allows you to schedule the automatic sending of the dashboard to a user. You can deliver or send a dashboard to certain users by configuring things in this dashboard scheduling section. We'll see that in a moment. So what do we have in the Veeam Backup and Replication dashboard? Well, we get here by clicking on it. There are a number of widgets. So these rectangles are what we call widgets, to use the Veeam ONE terminology. And within the widgets, we have a certain amount of information, indicators, and data about the components of the Veeam Backup and Replication infrastructure. The first widget, for example, is protected workload, which gives us information about the number of workloads, both protected and unprotected. That is, workloads that have at least one retention point and those that have none at all. Here we can see that 54.5% of workloads are protected because there are 18 that are not protected. So unprotected, 45.5%, and protected, 54.5%. Here, you can very easily visualize the status of the jobs for each day in a graphical way. On October 1st, 1 job succeeded, 2 had warnings, and 3 failed. So in this way, you can visually see the success and failure rates of jobs in the environment. I find this very useful. It's very visual, which makes it proactive. You can identify at a glance what's really happening. Identify problems in the environment. Here, in this widget, you can see the backup windows, backup jobs, and replication jobs. This lets you see the duration and identify what takes the most time, for example, to know how long the backup jobs take, whether the backups are under 8 hours, for instance, from midnight to 8 AM, or if they are shorter. This makes it possible to visually identify the backup and replication windows in the environment. Here you have an inventory of the components, the elements of the backup infrastructure. So here, the backup server, we have 2 backup proxies, 2 repositories, and then we have the status, the health state, which lets you know the health of the different components in the environment, and other important widgets, for example, the overall average job duration, which is a key metric, the last job status, the last run, failure, success, and here you have a widget showing the repository usage rate. Here you go, repository, local repository Ardennes. Here you have information about the space used, and some indicators that provide information for capacity planning, knowing when you might need to consider adding more space. So here we have a bit of capacity planning, at least some capacity planning information about the repositories. So this is a pre-configured dashboard called Veeam Backup and Replication, which is set up like this by default. You can modify quite a few things on this predefined dashboard. You can change the layout. So here you have two. I can do it with 3 columns, 3 by 2. So here we have the information, the widgets, which are displayed differently. We're on 2 rows, 3 columns. You can also switch to 2 rows and 4 columns. Depending on the screen size and how you want the information to be displayed, you have these options available here. So I think that this VM looks pretty good because here the information is consolidated. You can see all the widgets on the screen, and that's quite interesting. You can change the layout. The layout is the order of the widgets, you see. I can decide to have it like this because I think this representation is the most relevant. This is the most interesting information, then the job status and so on. So you can move the widgets around very easily like this, thanks to these capabilities of HTML5 interface. What do we have? So we also have the schedule, which we saw earlier, but the schedule allows you to. You can see here that you can set the frequency, so the sending on a specific day, either it's a frequency or it's a specific day each month. If I click next to choose to send the email, the delivery format, should it be attached to the email or embedded in the body of the email? So you define that here. The recipients, so a group of users. The idea is, for example, to send a dashboard, share information, create a dashboard and share it with management, with the executive team, with the IT director, so that everyone at their own level can monitor the success indicators, the performance indicators. And so they can evaluate, measure, and ensure that the data protection strategy and the SLAs are being properly followed. The results are indeed in line with the SLAs that have been defined by the company. I find this feature really very interesting, the sharing of dashboards, or at least the automatic sending of dashboards. But you can also share the dashboard by clicking here on Share. Here you have a direct link, okay, created with public access. And this link, you just copy it and put it in an email. You share it with someone, a company user, your manager, or the executive team. And by clicking, let's do it here as an example. If we take it, there, we've copied the link. If I go and paste all of this, you'll see we land on a web page that contains only the dashboard information. And so you can't do anything else except view it. You can only refresh the dashboard, you can't edit it, you can't schedule it. It's really a read-only page only. And it allows you to view the information and see the dashboard as it was organized, created, and configured by an administrator. All right? So this can be very useful for sharing dashboards, information indicators, to keep track, to have proactive monitoring of the environment, and to report information to management, the CISO, or the IT director. Let's go back to the dashboard. So this, in the same way, as you can see, you have other dashboards like Heatmap, which lets you have widgets with information about the repository space and the use of the repository proxy. And you also have dashboards that are specific to the virtualized infrastructure. You can see that you have dashboards here for VMware vSphere because the underlying virtualization infrastructure is a vSphere setup. So there are already pre-existing vSphere dashboards. If we take, for example, vSphere trend, we arrive at a dashboard that contains widgets for CPU, usage, memory, and so on. What else do we have? vSphere alarm, the alarms, VMware. So here we can see some components. vSphere, vCenter, cluster, host, data store, VM, the issues identified in the environment. So VMware alarms that have been detected. There you go. These are really specific pieces of information about vSphere, which can be very interesting and can obviously also provide you with a certain level of proactivity in monitoring and reporting. So these are the pre-configured dashboards. To create a specific dashboard, if you want to make a dashboard that's really tailored to your needs in a specialized way, we'll do it together. Click on ADD, and then I'll put it here, the dash. For example, from 6 descriptions, we will leave the current configuration as it is for the moment. I have the ability to customize it a little further and decide, no, I am going to personalize it completely. And for the visual appearance, we will specifically set the color to a vibrant orange hue and then carefully choose this particular design as the definitive icon for our application. We'll set it as a favorite. Edit appearance. So in orange, There, that's okay. So I click on this. For now, it's empty. You see, there are no widgets. So I'm going to create some widgets. In the widgets, you need to choose the widget categories. You have widgets of the Heatmap, proxy, usage, and repository types. You have widgets specific to Veeam, backup, and replication. So here you have quite a lot of options. Infrastructure, inventory, job, status, Windows, best practice. You have quite a few widgets here, and you also have widgets that are specific to vSphere, the virtualization environment at the moment. So here we want to create a widget. It's a backup on replication widget. I select that, and now you get a preview of the widget, which is pretty interesting. Graphically, backup, job, status, you can see roughly what the widget looks like. Backup window, best practice finding, protection overview, workload, job duration, top repository, and workspace. All right, this really lets you preview the widget before selecting it. Let's pick one at random. This was just for the demo. We'll take this one. Here you can change the name of the widget. And here you see the values we've already looked at. Protective workload type, the type of workload, the RPA, the RPO. Objective, we click finish, and there you see the widget appear. We can do the same thing at random, add best practice, finding, there you go, finish. And let's add a third one just for good measure, like Heatmap proxy usage, for example, next. And here you can configure whether all proxies are included or if you want to filter for certain proxies only. Finish. And now you have the widget being created. So there you go. This way you can create your own dashboards with your widgets. You can modify, as we saw earlier, the layout to position the information however you like. And share, as we also saw earlier, share directly, link, public access, copy the link, you share it, you send it by email. Or you can set up an automatic send here. An automatic send through scheduling, which will email the dashboard to the interested and relevant people for the dashboard. So those were the dashboard features of Veeam ONE from the reporting module. What you should remember is that version 13 of Veeam ONE, the graphical interface of version 13 of Veeam ONE, is really very interesting in terms of ergonomics and capability. It makes things easier. It allows you to configure dashboards in a very simple way, to visually represent information very simply, in a very interesting way so that you can get the most value out of it. That's it. Thank you. Bye.